2.1, welcome and introductions. We're a little out of order, but Chris, we'll start with you.
Chris Askew, board member.
Dan Krupa, board treasurer.
Dawn Mullins, board member.
John Brazil, CFO.
Sandy Manchella, secretary.
Vern Sullivan, board member.
Sherry Poppin, board member.
Steve Holloway, board vice president.
Jim Whipke, superintendent.
And I'm John Laughlin, board president.
Can I do one more introduction?
Please.
We have really some special guests that are sitting out in the audience today. The Wilde family, Mr. and Mrs. Wilde. And I learned, I could have talked to you a lot longer. You were teaching me a lot of lessons today. But his great-grandfather owned all of the property that we're sitting on, and it was a farm. So when he walks in, and this room is his room, right? This is kind of your house, right? And so he's exercising on our track now, and he's getting healthy. But you know, he can remember when it was farmland, and was telling us telling me some pretty neat stories. And he and his wife are both involved in the Arnold Historical Museum. And I just want to tell you what a pleasure and honor it was to meet you, sir. And thank you for everything that you've done. And please know that your family's land is going to make a difference in the lives of a lot of kids. So thank you very much, sir.
2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 are no content for this evening, so we're going to go straight to 2.5, public comments.
Yeah, we do have one public comment today, and just a real quick reminder that any problems involving particular or identifiable employee or students is not the place in an open session when we're going to identify employees or students. And also want to remind anyone doing a public comment that there is a 3-minute time limit on a public comment. We do have one. I believe it's Mike Evans. Mike, go ahead. Thank you.
All right, is this on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm Mike Evans. I'm the chairman of the Arnold Veterans Commission and one of your employees for about 6 more hours. And then you guys will be rid of me. But I'm here tonight on a little bit of a courtesy call / announcement. Yesterday we had something really special happen in the city. Last week we found out that there would be no 4th of July celebration. One thing my group has done is put out flags. And it's helped to bolster the spirit of patriotism, those who've served through all generations. And we were able to find a vendor with enough flags, 500 plus flags, where we will be able to line the streets from Arnold City Park all the way to the city limits at Telegraph. So I'm here to announce that to you because we want to always build that relationship with Fox. And Dr. Whipke, at some point, be meeting with you about how we do our Veterans Day Parade, which I think a lot of you have attended, and it involves the school very much so. But I wanted to reach out to the school to let you know this is happening, but secondly, to ask for support. Anybody who feels like coming down from 3 to 7 this Thursday is going to be the time at Arnold City Hall. We're going to start meeting at about 2:30, and I figure there are roughly anywhere from 20 to 25 student groups and activities at each of our high schools and junior high schools and so on and so forth, and having participated at a lot of them, they always have an interest in our veterans in this community. They really do want to help the kids do. So I know it's summertime and sometimes it's hard to get that, but I wanted to reach out, and any of you are welcome to come out, whether you can come out for 20 minutes or you come out for an hour. This is an important project. It's a great thing for our city, a great thing for our community, and Fox being as big as it is in our community, I think it's important that you guys are involved. So with that said, many thanks and goodbye, and hopefully I will see you all on Thursday.
Yes, sir. Mr. Krupa.
In case anybody missed what Mike was saying, he's asking for volunteers to help put up those 500 flags.
I heard.
Okay.
3.1, dropout rate. Dr. Whipke.
Yeah, we have our May dropout rate at a percentage of 1.45.
You got 3.2 as well, average daily attendance.
Yep, the year-to-date, at the end of our school year for 2014-2015, the average attendance was 95%.
85%. Any questions?
It's great, yeah, it's excellent.
All right, 3.3, financial report, Mr. Brazil.
The financial report for the 11 months ended May 31st is in your agenda. Today is actually the last day of the fiscal year, and we'll have final reports from this year in about 2 weeks. But we're trending near where we wish to be. You'll see on the comparative data that we are still ahead of last year, even though we were able to accommodate the VSIP, most of the VSIP payments in the current year. So we're settling right in where we want to be with approximately $15 million of fund balance at year end for our operating funds. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to field those at any time. Thank you.
No questions? 5.1, payment of bills, Group A, and I think you're going to do A and B,
You
Mr.
skipped one, skip 4.1.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4.1, gifts to the district, Dr. Whipke.
Yep, we do have a gift to the district going to Sherwood Elementary, and we'd ask the board to approve. It's a $105 gift donation, and the donation will be used to help purchase Chromebook.
Do I have a motion to accept that?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 5.1, payment of bills, Mr. Brazil.
The general group of bills is presented for your approval. There's no conflicts of interest on this package, not on this one. On the Group B, there is with you. On Group B, there is with you.
All right, 5.1, Group A, do I have a motion? Yes. Mr. Sullivan? Second?
Second.
Mr. Holloway? Questions or comments? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5.2, Mr. Brazil?
Group B is a small group. Mr. Sullivan, you'll want to abstain.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Krupa?
Second.
Mr. Holloway? Mr. Krupa and Mr. Holloway.
Who abstained?
Nobody yet, but it's going to be Mr. Sullivan in just a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Um, 5.3, 2015-2016 budget adoption, Mr. Brazil.
The 2015-16 budget is presented for adoption tonight. We presented this a few meetings ago initially. We discussed it at some length at a prior meeting, and it's presented tonight for adoption. I do want to mention that it's balanced and we're pleased with where we are financially with that budget. I also need to mention that with the next agenda item 5.4, we'll be adopting a classified pay schedule. We've previously adopted pay schedules for certified staff and administrative staff. This budget anticipates the approval of that classified pay scale as well, and we've modeled that into the budget. So unless there's any questions, I just go ahead and recommend that we adopt the 15-16 budget.
Do I have a motion to adopt that budget?
Motion.
Mr. Krupa?
Second.
Ms. Poppin? Questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I have a comment. This is great that we have this budget and it's balanced, and I really appreciate the fact that it is. John, Matt, thank you.
Thank you. I think it's great that John put more money into each classroom for materials, et cetera, also, and that he's reworked some of the classified pay scales, which needed to be kind of worked on.
Agreed. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5.4, Mr. Brazil.
This is that proposed classified pay scale that I mentioned a moment ago. And we're transitioning from a difficult situation where we have about a dozen pay scales, I've got them right here, that over time have become very disjointed. And what we're trying to do with this particular scale is pull everything back together, reestablish a relative worth between the jobs that we have in the district, and establish a plan for the future in how employees will advance their compensation through that plan. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. So we are in a position where these expiring pay schedules, we have 3 classes of employees. We have some of those employees that are below the schedule, and in that case, we are bringing them up to the start of the scale that they would be on in the new schedule. We have employees that land within the scale, and we're setting them on that scale with a small increase in pay. And then we have some employees that are above the scale, and we're going to freeze their pay, and as this schedule moves through time with cost of living adjustments, it'll eventually catch them. So we're not trying to harm anybody by this process, but we're trying to be very prudent with that presentation. So that's how we're operating the scale. In the future, people will have a very predictable outcome of their compensation and be able to see where they're going. So I think it'll operate well in the future. We may have a few complaints this year as we transition onto it, but we're trying to be as fair as we can about that process. With that, I recommend its approval.
Do I have a motion to accept 5.4?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gruple. Questions or comments? All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5.5, Mr. Brazil.
This is a proposal to set tuition rates for the 15-16 year. It's something we should be doing annually. There's 2 tuition rates presented here. The first relates to people that wish to send their kids, non-resident families that wish to send their kids here, and they may own property within our district, but they don't live within our district. We're proposing a tuition rate of $4,167.97. That's our cost of education less our state funding reimbursements that we would get for their attendance. So that's the net amount that would be due. They would get a credit as well for the taxes they pay directly to us for the property that they own within their district. The other set of tuition here, or rate of tuition we have, relates to unaccredited schools. There are unaccredited schools in the metro area that could send their students here, and we need to have a tuition rate set. In that case, we do not collect the state reimbursement. It goes to that district, so they need to pay us a full set of tuition, and we've set that rate at $9,560.74. I seek your approval for those tuition rates.
Do I have a motion to accept 5.5?
Questions?
That'll be after I get 2 motions.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Mullen?
Second.
Second, Ms. Popham. Questions or comments?
On this unaccredited thing, does the Fox School District have the ability to say yes or no to unaccredited students? And I'm not saying that I'm against doing it. I just know what happened with Normandy and Francis Howell and Riverview Gardens and Melville, and the receiving school districts, my understanding is they didn't get paid for the tuition, and that would be my concern if we had to accept unaccredited districts transfer students, do we have the ability to ask for prepayment to make sure that we get paid?
We cannot say no. In that process, there's two ways that they may come to us. That unaccredited district could direct that we are the district they transport to, and in that case, they would deliver students to our schools, and we would have a major conversation about how that all works, because it could easily overwhelm a school district. The second way they can come is the parents themselves can choose our school district, and then they're responsible for the transportation. Obviously, you're not going to get as many students that way. Our options are to sue them if they fail to pay the tuition.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 5.7, Mr. Brazil, you have about 4 or 5 more in a row here.
This is a sewer construction contract for putting sanitary sewers in at Merrimack Heights. This
Oh, it is
property
5.6,
previously has been on a sanitary lagoon. We've designed the project. It will connect to the sewers of Northeast Sewer District, which is a public sewer district operating in that area. We only received one bid on this. I was disappointed in that. However, it is significantly below the engineer's estimate, and this company comes with good recommendations. They've also worked within that same public sewer district, and they have given them good reviews. So we recommend that you award this to T. Drury Construction in the amount of $226,376 for the sewers at Merrimack Heights Elementary.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What can we do to solicit more bids? I know it's under the budget, but just a question. Are we publishing somewhere outside of the leader? Just a question.
I've just changed that process. They were advertised only in the leader, so now I'm having them put an ad in the Post and requiring a minimum of 10 direct mailings to eligible vendors.
Mr. Krupa?
My memory's not too good, as everybody knows, but it seemed like when Tim Crutchley was talking about this initially last year and the year before, that he thought this was going to be about 500,000. Is that right?
That's correct.
So it's really, really good.
We have reviewed this bid in detail with the contractor. We believe he's considered all items. He believes he has as well. So we're extremely pleased with this price.
So this hooks it up to the other sanitary system and eliminates the retention, whatever that thing's called.
The sanitary lagoon will be put out of service.
Great.
John, I have one more question. Don't we have other schools with this issue as well?
Yes, sir.
That we're going to have to address in the near future?
Yes, sir. I've asked that at the Ridgewood campus that we accelerate that project. So I was out there the other day. They've got it staked. That one is a little different. It's not gravity feed. They're going to have a lift station to get where they need to. But I want to get that project accelerated as well. Then down at the Suckman campus, we're on sanitary sewers down there, but we have some lagoons that have not been fully disbanded, and we'll pick that project up as soon as we can. It may be next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Yes? Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on 5.7.
5.7 is meal pricing for the next school year. We propose that we keep the pricing for students the same and a 20-cent increase for adults.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Ms. Poppin, thank you. A second? Mr. Hastings? Questions or comments? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 5.8.
This is a bid for our food service department, involves groceries, bread, milk, and produce. If you have looked at the results, you'll see the highlighted bids that we are accepting, and we recommend your approval.
Do I have a motion to accept this?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Sullivan, Ms. Mullins, questions or comments? All in I'm sorry, Mr. Holden.
Sorry. Inside the one for the produce, I don't know if you had a chance to actually look at the inside of these. It looks like the highlighted is the yellow, but several products are a no bid. Does that mean that we?
We'll order them on a case-by-case basis. We'll take
okay.
quotes each time we order.
So that company decides not to, for example, do Fuji apples in bulk?
We'll buy them on a event-by-event basis, based on the best prices we can get that day.
Any other questions? All in favor? Yes? Opposed? Motion carries. 5.9.
We came to you some meetings back recommending that we refund some of our debt and that we take out some new money to purchase school buses. Today, those bonds were sold, and we're here tonight to complete that transaction, to accept that sale, and to process all the documents necessary for that. I'd first like to have our representatives from Stiefel Nicholas explain today's financial results, and then we'll ask our counsel from Gilmore and Bell to explain the resolutions and the legal side of this. This is Carl Ramey. He's with Stiefel.
Good evening. Good evening. And first of all, thank you for allowing Stiefel Nicholas the opportunity to work with the district. I want to say that working with both John and Matt has been a pleasure in terms of putting this particular transaction together. This was, to say the least, was not necessarily an easy transaction. It was a fairly complex, complicated one, and one that, as the day unfolded, we really believe will benefit in the long run the district. Wanted to at least highlight the three goals that we started with. You know, oftentimes you start with in a transaction with, let's just get it done. Well, working with John, we established really three goals that we hope to achieve in this process. First of all, we wanted to refund as many of the bonds that were possible, both in the 2006, 7, and 8 series that would generate savings for the district. And then secondly, we wanted to structure the debt service so that it would provide the district with the support future flexibility for the district in terms of making sure that you would be allowed the capital project funds would support the outstanding certificates of participation debt. Remembering, of course, that your general obligation debt is supported by a separate and distinct levy. This one is your capital projects levy, and it is one that does have a certain degree of limits. And then finally, you had the acquisition of a major acquisition of school buses and some other vehicles, which was new money. So you had that mix going through this of a variety of things that we wanted to achieve. We were successful at refunding all of the 2006 COPS and did a partial advance refunding of part of the series 2007 and 2008 series, as well as provided the new money. When we entered the market today, you know, you hate to say that we benefited from maybe the suffering or the misery of others, but clearly the impact of Greece on the U.S. market worked to our benefit, as there was a flight to quality for investors. And so we found investors seeking, the bond market, and particularly the municipal bond market, as being of very much of importance to them. And as a result, we benefited not only there. There's some tension in Puerto Rico and the potential for some Puerto Rican bonds potentially defaulting. That coupled with this is a holiday week, and thank you for having your board meeting on a Tuesday, because the reality is pricing of bonds in a shortened week on a Monday or Tuesday is significantly better than if you're trying to do it at the end of the week when nobody's around. Also the fact that we're in a period of time right now in Missouri where we just don't have a lot of Missouri paper. And there is a strong investment, because we are double tax exempt in the state of Missouri for retail purchasers. There is a strong interest on the part of retail for bonds such as yours. We not only faced that kind of mix, but then to your benefit, we were able to secure the continuation of the rating of your A rating on these bonds, A+ for your general obligation. We think that as you move forward with the strides you've made, and I think they've been recognized by Standard & Poor's in their rating, that we anticipate or would hope to anticipate, if you have your continued success, that rating could potentially go up. That, plus we were able to secure insurance on the transaction, making this a AA insured transaction, helped. And there's a way of also saying from a underwriter standpoint, the size of your bond issue made it very attractive for investors. So as we entered into the market today, we saw a wide range of investors, retail, money market managers, bond funds, large investment funds, wide range of investors. And I will say this from Stifel Nicolaus's standpoint, that's one of the things that I think we can bring to the table for you, and is that our distribution network, both retail and institutional, is as broad or broader than you will find in any firm, clearly in the Midwest and also on Wall Street. And that distribution helps to push competition and therefore lowers rates. We were able to reprice, which means that we were able to lower your interest rates anywhere from 5 to 10 basis points or thereabouts in virtually all the maturities. In fact, I think all the maturities we did. We sold during our order period about 95% of your bonds. So, from that standpoint, Fox was a recognizable district in the bond market. And so, I will say this, that even though you may have had some disruption in the past, clearly today, I don't think any of that disruption in your district, carried over. And so that is to your credit, and you really needs to be, I guess, one to celebrate that. In that repricing process, from the time we went out in the morning to the time we got done, shortly before noon, that saved you about $300,000, a little more than $300,000 of interest cost today. So the refunding itself, we had net present value savings of 2.42%, or in value about $370,000. Gross savings about $800,000. We were able to shorten the maturity of the 2008 bonds by 1 year, so that was one of the other benefits. The new money costs, we We came in at a 2.38% for that new money, which was lower than previously obtained bank rates that when the board was first considering this as to whether or not to include it in the bond issue or do it separately as a bank rate. And all in, and when I say all in, that includes all the financing costs of 2.38. And in the transaction itself, it was a 3.087% all in with all the financing costs for all of the 22 million. So we believe we've met all three of the goals of the district, and we are pleased to present this to you, and we hope that you will approve the bond purchase agreement. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of your financing team and be a partner of the district.
Thank you, Carl.
Any questions? I'm sorry.
Thanks, Carl. Sean Flynn is next. He's with the firm of Gilmore and Bell. They are our counsel on this transaction, and he'll be presenting the legislation for tonight's meeting.
Before you, there are two resolutions before you. The first resolution approves everything Carl just talked about. It approves the refinancing of your 2006 bonds and some of your 2007, 2008 bonds, as well as the issuance of bonds to provide money to purchase the new buses and vehicles. The resolution also approves a whole host of documents, including a couple leases. As a lease transaction, the district is leasing a couple of their facilities. The Ridgewood Middle School and the Rockport Heights Elementary School were the two buildings that were selected. You had to select some buildings to be a part of your lease property. It also approves the purchase contract where you sell the bonds to Stiefel Nicklaus. It also approves the interest rates, and the interest rates are set forth in the resolution. So that's what the first resolution accomplishes. And then, if you don't mind, I'll talk about the second resolution since they somewhat go hand in hand. The second resolution approves a tax and disclosure compliance procedure. Anytime you issue tax and bonds and access to capital markets, there is ongoing compliance as long as those bonds are outstanding. And the IRS and the SEC have both come out and have strongly recommended the issuers adopt these written procedures. And so these written procedures, what it does is you name a bond compliance officer. In this case, you're naming the chief financial officer as your bond compliance officer, and that person is in charge of monitoring how you spend the bond proceeds, how you invest the bond proceeds, and make sure all the required ongoing filings are made on a going forward basis. So it really just sort of puts memorializes what Mr. Brazil is already doing. But like I said, the IRS has come out and strongly recommended that these procedures be adopted. In fact, we'll have to file a form with the IRS, and they're actually keeping track who actually adopts these procedures and who don't. So we certainly want to mark that box, yes, that the district has adopted these procedures. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our first resolution tonight approves the sale and authorizes the signature of all the documents that are necessary, and we'll be signing those documents after this meeting tonight.
I understand.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to accept 5.9?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, help me understand, the 2015 certificates are a purchase price of $23 million, and we have the 2006, 7, and 8 series. So are we eliminating the 6, 7, and 8 series in favor of a 2015 series, which includes the $5 million that we need, and then the other roughly 7, 2, 9, 6, and so I'm wondering how we got from basically asking for $5 million, but then the 2015 certificates are upwards of 23.
The approximately 17 million, oh, go ahead, Brittany.
Sorry. To answer your question, yes, you are eliminating the 2006 certificates. You're eliminating most of the maturities of the 7 and 8 certificates. There are still some outstanding, but yes, you're not doubling up your debt. You're getting rid of that, and the only new debt technically is the $5 million for the vehicles.
Okay, but so we still have a little bit of the 7 and the 8 left?
You do,
Okay, so the only one we're actually eliminating totally is the 6?
correct.
Okay.
We're not eliminating, we're replacing it. We're eliminating all of 06, part of 7, part of 8, and replacing it with this 15. So there's
Right.
17 million of that debt is being
We're
replaced
carrying
with
forward to
cheaper
the
debt.
15, yep.
And then the 5 million of new debt.
Right, sorry, this debt will be at a lower yield,
Right.
lower rate than your previous debt.
That was Brittany.
What's that?
That was Brittany, since nobody introduced her.
Any more questions? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to accept 5.1?
5.10 is the resolution authorizing our compliance procedures for both tax and disclosure. This was discussed by Mr. Flynn, and we recommend your approval of this resolution as well.
I'll make the motion.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5.11, Mr. Brazil.
Thank you all for those approvals. The school buses, we ordered in good faith that we would be able to borrow this money tonight. They are actually well in production. Some of them are through production and are receiving the finishing touches down in Oklahoma, and we'll start receiving them 10 at a time in a couple weeks. Well, in about 3 weeks. 5.11 relates to the Affordable Care Act and some actions we need to take on that. We wish to set a base rate and to establish some look-back periods. I've described those at the end of the narrative there, and we seek your approval of that.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Sullivan? Second? Mr. Hastings? Questions or comments? All in favor? Yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.1, staff separations. Dr. Whipke.
Yeah, we just have a handful of staff separations that we asked the board to approve.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2, certified hires. Dr. Whipke.
Yeah, we have two lists here. We have one list that outlines the certified staff that we're seeking to employ, and then we also have certified staff that we needed to make some adjustments and modifications to their contract based upon where they fell in the salary schedule with their transcripts in years of service. They have a master's plus 15 and whatnot that we needed to correct and fix.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second? Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments? Mr. Krupa?
How did we find out we needed to do this?
In
We're talking about the employment modifications right now, right?
Right.
Well, there's new hires and there's some modifications.
There's both underneath 6.2.
I'm looking at the
The employment modifications.
with 3 people on it.
Yeah, and that
Yeah, that one.
yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is, how did we know? I mean, one of them's $6,000 different. Why were we not paying the right amount?
These, I know at least the last two, and I think all three of these were hired last year, right as we started the year, and in the rush of freezing everybody's pay, these were not treated as we treat most hires that give credit for prior service. So they were just denied prior service last year, and we're correcting that this year.
Okay.
And they're all new pay schedule that we
Yes, sir. This was, historically, they've always been treated in accordance with policy. Last year, we had some last-minute hires that were not treated that way. They were just not processed that way. We're fixing that error. Now, there's not gonna be a retroactive adjustment to their pay. Just going forward, they will be placed on the correct step. And so they suffered last year, but they will not suffer in the future.
It's a consistency piece to what their colleagues have.
Any more questions? All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3, classified hires, is that no content? Or you do have classified?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
6.3.
same situation as our certified, only classified. So we have a list of employees for hire to the board, and then we have some contract modifications that we need to approve.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Mullins, do I have a second? Ms. Poppin? All right.
Okay, whatever.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 6.4, substitute hires,
That's the one we
no
don't have.
content.
Yep.
All right, thank you. 7.1, Mr. Brazil.
This is the start of our policy revision process. As you know, we contracted with MSBA to work with us on bringing our policies up to date. They put theirs in chapters or sections, and these are the first two sections, and we're presenting them for a first reading tonight. This is not an adoption, it's just an acknowledgement that we're received them, and we're putting them of record so they're for public comment. We'll come back at a later meeting and have a second reading and adoption. This particular batch of policies relates to our foundations and basic commitments is what they title it. You can see the list of titles there, as well as the individual policies below there. I've reviewed these carefully. I've made a few comments. They've been edited by MSBA, and they've cleared their legal review, and they've been returned to us, and I'm here to recommend them to you in this particular form for your review and adoption as a first reading.
Do I have a motion to accept 7.1?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions or, Mr. Sullivan? Questions or comments?
Mr. Brazil, how long do you think it's starting at 7.1? How many weeks, how many months will it take for us at this pace to get through?
We hope to get through this in 60 days.
Wow.
That's ambitious, but I think we can do it.
So they get posted on the website, public has access, teachers have, everybody has access.
Everybody has
Comments
access.
over the next 30 days, and our intention is second reading and adoption 30 days from now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then each meeting between now and then, we continue to roll out the next
We'll
set?
roll out more sets as we go forward.
Until we get to the 60-day mark and then finish from there, whatever that is. Okay, it
They're
is.
definitely easier to read than previous ones.
The goal is something that everyone can understand, no ambiguity.
Any other questions? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 7.2.
This is Section B, which is a larger section. It relates to the Board of Education and its governance. You can see a large number of policies here. Joyful reading, I'm sure. Again, we've reviewed these thoroughly. They've been compared to our own existing policies or unique practices, and we're prepared to offer them to you for the first reading.
Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Questions or comments?
So if this is the first reading, why are we taking action on them?
Just to make it a record.
Okay.
Permission to release them to the website? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 7.3.
I have three more policies that I'm presenting for both first reading and second reading and adoption tonight. They relate to our federal programs, and the federal programs guidelines dictate that we adopt these by July 1st, which is tomorrow. So this is our last opportunity to do this. They all relate to our federal programs. So the first one is allowability procedures. It defines how we determine what is allowable under our federal programs. How do we internally determine that? The second one is our cash management procedures. You recall we wrote a lot of cash management procedures at the start of last fiscal year. We've implemented some of those into this policy. And finally is our travel policy, which we also rewrote this past year. They've been rewritten into MSBA format and coded in accordance with their indexing procedures. And so we recommend this for first reading. I recognize that next item is second reading and adoption. We do that because we need them of record by tomorrow. These have been written, that first one, that allowability one, the federal government has given very little guidance on this policy. And so I've written it with the full expectation that within 6 months we'll be revisiting this and rewriting this as we become more familiar with this particular, our obligations under this particular act. But for now, we think we have a good starting policy, and we'll work with it as a work in progress as time goes on. So I recommend these to you for first reading, and as soon as you do that, I'm going to recommend them for second reading and adoption.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 7.4.
I recommend those three policies for second reading and adoption.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Questions or comments?
I'll just make a quick comment that this will happen from time to time where we are being pushed down things, and there's really no reason to have a long discussion about it because we're being told we need to do these things. It's not us pushing things through from an administrative front. It's we're being told and dictated what we need to be changing in terms of policies and practices from DESE.
Just legal clarifications.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Not on this, but on the 7.1 and 7.2, what will the process be for the community to make suggestions to the policies? Is it an email to a particular person? Is there some type of format that we'll be sharing with the community?
I guess we have not defined that response very well, but certainly we'll take oral comment or email comment is great. That way there's no misunderstanding on our part about their comment. They can bring it to a meeting like this and hand it to us in written form. Written form is preferable.
One of the things by going to MSBA, it's proven. It's a proven policy. Districts all across the state of Missouri use MSBA policies. But what we're going through the process of is we look at it and how does it fit Fox School District. So the reason I bring that up is that if there's a patron or there's a staff member or any stakeholder to our district that has questions about our policies, they can always bring it to us, and then that's when we have the job to do our due diligence. Do we need to make a change? Is there something that isn't fitting our district that's connected into it? And if we need to, we as a district, my team will look at it, explore what are the options around this. Is there a need for a change? and then bring it to your table for approval or not approval. So we'll constantly be taking policies to the board for changes and modifications based upon feedback. But it's kind of like what we want to do, and Dawn, you had mentioned it, it's easy to read. We need to get to some standardization with our policies. We also need to make them easily accessible to our public so that they can learn about the policies. And then I'm sure we're missing something here or there with MSBA policies, but that's when we change and make the modifications as we go through.
In regard to that accessibility piece, you'll notice right here on Board Docs, we have a tab for policies. So as we get these adopted, right now it flips to our website, but eventually these will be online and we'll tab this right here and straight to policy. They're searchable. It's great.
Yeah.
All in favor? Yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.1, Superintendent Report.
Yeah, I actually have, surprise, I have a lot to mention here. The first thing that I want to mention, though, and I don't know if I publicly have done this, we have done a lot of hiring, and I think we were making some quality hires, and I'm going to introduce them in a minute. The one person, though, that I'm a little disappointed that I can't take credit for, but you heard all of his hats that he's had to wear during our time of transition is John Brazil. I think he's done an outstanding job. I have thoroughly enjoyed my month of being indoctrinated into the Fox School District. I often get credit for visiting schools and getting to know folks and laying down some groundwork in terms of building a really strong administrative team. But you know, John has been in the trenches. And I just wanted to publicly thank you for all of your work, John. Not only is it quality and really good, I am a little upset, though, that I can't take credit for hiring you. All right, so thank you very much for everything. I do want to also bring to the attention of everyone that we have two new directors that are here. We have our Director of Professional Development, Amy Zielinski, in the front row there. All right. And welcome. Amy's coming to us from University City. And we have Kim Schumacher, who's the new Director of Nursing for our district. Welcome, Kim. We had mentioned a couple of things, and I wanted to kind of talk just briefly about one change that the public's going to see, and it does connect to the policies. I've worked with Sam Rayburn and had some meetings with him. We're working really hard, and we're going to be pushing forward with standardization of our websites, so that when we go to one school, if I have a child in an elementary level, a middle school level, and a high school level, that I can navigate through the website in a similar manner, and it's not a change. So I'm used to things. What will be connected to those is all of those policies, and there'll be a way to grab a hold of those, no matter if you're looking at my elementary school, my middle school, or my high school. So Sam's working on that. He presented on July 15th and 16th. We had our administrative summer institute with all of our administrators, minus the ones that were in summer school and helping run summer school. But Sam presented and talked to the principals about just that with our website. So that's something to be looking at. The other thing, I've got some good news. Last year, we had students from Seckman and Fox High School that went to a student summit on race. And Gateway to Change is what it was called. And we have one student, Nina Miskovic, who is a student at Seckman High School, and she is going to represent our district on a Monday, July 27th, at the Cooperative Conference for School Administrators in Columbia, Missouri, dealing with this. And so that was just awesome that she agreed to do that. And she'll be taking a trip with students from all over the St. Louis area. So that's one thing I wanted to definitely make sure I mentioned. I mentioned also briefly summer school. We have had our summer schools over. So everybody can kind of breathe easy now, but we had a lot of folks doing a lot of good things for our kids during summer school. Jessica Meeks came to the last board meeting and did a presentation. I'm going to invite her back now once she's had a little bit of time to gather some data for us and look at where our summer school programs are going and where they went this year. There's a lot that we learned from our summer school, but I will tell you that when I visited the summer school sites, I was highly impressed again with our teachers, and our kids were having fun. And that's important. They were loving learning. We, as everybody knows, got inundated with a lot of rain, and it's amazing what the teachers did to give them a break in the exercise. Technology is a pretty awesome thing. So I got to dance with kids as they were singing and moving as it was pouring rain outside. So just kudos to all of the folks, the administrators, the staff, the teachers, for getting the summer school off with some glitches, yes, but we learned a lot from it, and again, our kids had a good time and a good experience. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned those things as well. The final thing I wanted to just kind of toss out there and mention in my report is that July 7th is a pretty important day for us all. On July 7th, we're going to have our work session. It'll be a different format from us. President Laughlin and myself and Brent Underwood, who did the superintendent search from MSBA, he'll come back and he'll facilitate our workshop, and we're going to tackle a lot in that day. We will stay on time, all right? We will also call it a planning session, all right, that we're having, not a retreat. But it is going to be a planning session, and we won't be here on the stage, but we'll be down on the floor in tables. And it's really a planning session and a roundtable conversation that we have, and how we do our job and work together. So I just wanted to point out a few things that day will bring. And if you have questions or a conversation, that's fine. I'll be more than happy to answer questions. But I gave all of our administrators a Summer Institute binder that walks through our direction, walks through thoughts and our focus into this coming up school year. The reason I gave it to our administrators now is it gives them, over the summer, time to plan with their teacher leaders and their administrative team. There's a lot of information in there. Some you would want, some you may not want. But I have binders that I've put together. And actually, I had a lot of help. Sandy Manchella helped me a ton with the binders, but we put those together. We'll give you that. Some of the things that you've brought up to me already is like an organizational chart. Well, that organizational chart is a part of that binder. So you'll have some, I think, key information that'll help in terms of where we're heading as a district. It'll also have some calendars and important dates for you guys to take note of. So we'll be doing that. We'll also go through just our general norms that we would like to follow as a group and as a board. I can share with you the norms that we've selected as a cabinet and how we're going to work with each other, and there should be some commonalities and similarity there. We're also going to discuss, as we have on July 7th, our planning session about the structure of our board meetings. Is there a need to change some things? Do you guys need some more information on some topics? Do you not need information on other topics? And do we have things in the correct order? So that'll be a conversation. Brent's going to take us through a conversation on parameters and responsibilities as board members. And then we're going to discuss, probably at some great length, the proper way to go about evaluating a superintendent. And what is actually looked at when we evaluate a superintendent. So I, for one, am looking forward to that discussion. Right. I think that was it in terms of the July 7th and that meeting. We will go from 5:30 to 9:30, or no, I'm sorry, 5:30 to 9, and we'll stay true to that time frame unless we end a little early. All right, so we'll kind of monitor that. Does anybody have any questions for me with July 7th? I have one more meeting tomorrow with Brent just to kind of finalize things, and I do thank you, John, for meeting with us. Yeah.
Will it just be the school board and you and Brent, or will your administration be there too?
No, my team will be there. Yeah, the cabinet will be there, and it is an open session. So if there's other folks that want to sit and listen to our conversation, they definitely can. It'll be more of an informal process. Won't have the mics in front of us and whatnot, but we will be down on the floor in tables. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions with that? Okay, thank you.
8.2, board member reports. I think that was 8, we got 8.1 and 8.3 put together there, so we're good on that.
I have one more thing on A3.
Sorry, go ahead.
So you want me to slide with A3 now?
You might as well just take
Okay,
it.
might as well just run with it, all right? A couple of things, and I also want to let you guys know that, and we've talked about this before, but I did receive a letter, and actually it was addressed to you, President Laughlin, but it was from character.org, and it just wanted to recognize one more time Antonia Middle School and also Fox Middle School for being a National School of Character. I know we've given them credit, but it's a really special deal what they've accomplished, and they sent me that letter, and I wanted to at least recognize that. The final thing that I'm going to toss out there, we probably won't get any resolution yet, but I just wanted you to put it in your memory banks and file it away, because we are going to need to make decisions. MSBA has a board and superintendent conference, and that comes up each October. It is going to be October 1st through the 4th. Dawn, you and I traded a little bit of emails back and forth, and I know that last year we had some members that attended this conference, and so we're going to want to get on top of this right away if this is something that we are interested in entertaining and going. I, for one, think for me, it's a great idea to attend. Being a new superintendent, I feel like I need to go to that, and I'm also attending, July 8th and 9th, per the board's approval, a new superintendent's, conference in Jeff City. So this is one that will deal with board dynamics and how we function properly as a board. It's really important to me that we have a great relationship, an open relationship, that not only our community sees, but that will help us make smart decisions, obviously in the best interest of our kids. So again, that's October 1st through 4th. It is in, I think, Lake of the Ozarks, and we'll need to eventually make a decision on that and who wants to attend. The sooner the later, though, because if I understand things right, the rooms down there where the conference get held get booked really, really fast, and we'll have to do something on that front to move fairly quickly. Just wanted to toss that out there.
I have a question. Is that the conference that Chris and I will be attending as new board members?
I believe so. Do you have a date on the new one that you're thinking it is?
I thought it was
The
those
first
dates that you
through the
said.
4th?
Yeah.
Then it would be, yeah.
I think it starts a day early for new board members. And
A
then
day
you can
earlier
stay.
than he stated. I'll look on my email.
Yeah, and I have an email, and I think you're exactly right. I have an email I can send you all that will gives you a roughed out agenda, so you'll be able to see that.
Okay, do Chris and I make our own reservations? How is that handled?
Yeah,
We-
you can let Sandy know, and Sandy will take care of the reservations, because she's going to need to take care of all of the reservations.
And
for-
registration
for
as
the
well?
people. Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nope. All right, 8.2, board member reports. Chris? No report. No report?
You know me.
I just want to say that I hope everybody realizes with this bond thing that doing what we did with these bonds saved a lot of money for the school district. And I want everybody to be aware, John switched whatever Stiefel Nicholas is. We switched to Carl Ramey, and what I'm trying to say is this is really a big deal. The district has really moved forward with John and Carl Ramey and Brittany. We saved a lot of money. We're doing things the right way financially. And what I'm trying to do is not say anything bad about the past, but we are moving forward in a great direction. And what Dr. Whipke said about John Brazil was only half of what needs to be said about him. And this board can take credit for hiring him. He turned Afton around, and now he's been here a year, and what he's accomplished is unbelievable. I feel so good about this district financially, where when I got on this board in April of 2013, I was presented with a budget that was had a $5 million deficit, and I almost lost my mind because I thought, what am I getting myself into? And now, last year, we started out with, we were going to be presented with a budget with a $7 million deficit that John worked on and got it lower, and now for next year, he's presenting us with a balanced budget. And you notice what Mr. Ramey said was that the people that are buying the bonds and doing the ratings recognize already the change in this district from what it was a year and a half and 2 years ago, because when you have a school district that eats into their reserve year after year and gets the reserve down too low, the bonding agencies don't like that, and your creditworthiness goes bad. And the fact that it's recognized this quickly, how we've turned the district around financially, is just unbelievably impressive. When Carl was giving his presentation, it was all I could do not to laugh out loud. I'm so happy with the way things are. It's just, it's incredible. And then now I'll go somewhere where I wasn't planning on going, but I'm going to say it anyway. And if somebody needs clarification, they'll have to talk to John, because I'll get some of these numbers wrong. But there was, I think there was an article in the paper about what the payout is for the voluntary separation thing, and that the school district it's costing $3.6 million for the people that are retiring. And what, I talked to John and Dr. Whipke a little bit about this today. I think what we need to do as a school district is to explain better what that means. What that means is, if we're paying out $3 million for these people who are leaving, what they were earning last year was $7.2 million, because we're paying them 50%. So they were making $7.2 million last year. We give them $3.5 million to go. We replace them, and we replaced them all. We didn't cut anybody. And we weren't able to hire everybody at half of what they were making, but we hired a lot of people at beginning levels, and then there's some positions where you have to hire more experienced people. So here I'm pulling this number out of thin air, but we're probably only spending $4 million on the replacements compared to the $7.2 million we were the previous year. And that flows forward from year to year. We're not just saving that money this coming year, we're saving it the next year and the next year. And Kim, if you're gonna write an article, you better talk to John, because I could be off on these numbers. But the way my math works, it's gonna cost us $3.6 million now to save $10 million over the next 3 years. So I'm just overjoyed with the financial condition of the district, the fact that John has been able to bump up whatever it's called to give each school more money. We're getting roofs fixed. It's just incredible how good things are financially now. And I don't want to take anything away from Dr. Whipke, because usually I give a speech saying how wonderful he is, but tonight my speech is about how wonderful John is. And the new hiring that we've done, I'm overjoyed, and I'm finished. Thanks.
I just wanted to comment about moving forward in summer school. I heard a lot of great feedback in the community about summer school and how much it has changed from previous years. Parents were very happy that their kids were happy and engaged and had fun, and they felt like they were learning. And I also just wanted to give you, props for the team working on the community survey. I thought that was very well put together. Are you getting a good response yet?
Actually, I'm really glad you brought that up. We have had 1,900 responses, and it is, yes, wow, and it is open until July 15th. So we have continued to put out blasts reminding folks, And then the week beforehand, we'll send out another reminder. We're going to get some great information, and that will catapult us into, and we're going to talk about this on July 7th, that'll catapult us into the comprehensive school improvement process, which will be that 5-year process that we're going to put in based upon what our community's valuing and telling us we need to value. So I'm real excited to see those results.
It was a good survey.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan?
No report.
I also heard good things about the summer school program, but I have another thing I want to talk about. I have a question/comment regarding a policy issue. And in order to clarify and explain my concerns, it's necessary to refer to a situation that occurred last September. At the September 9th, 2014, I've got this written down because there's so much detail. At the September 9th, 2014 open session special board meeting, an employee, a Seckman graduate, by the way, who had been hired as a teacher's aide in a SPED classroom working with autistic students, was fired or terminated or unhired. I'm not sure what the board called it. She did not lose her job because of her performance in the classroom or because her hire was counter to the district hiring policy. She lost her job because I really don't know. I wasn't on the board at the time. What made that situation even more appalling is that it occurred during open session with the public and the media present. I might add that had she been under contract, she would not have lost her job and, quite frankly, protected the board from itself. One of my hopes is, as a board member, is to have all classified employees be under contract, as they were in the past. This would show them how much they are valued and prevent them from being terminated without cause. Subsequent to that termination, the board requested that the hiring policy be further tightened. The acting superintendent did so, and at the November 18th, 2014 meeting, the following clause was included. And I'm going to quote the clause. Any employee who is employed full or part-time upon a relative within the 4th degree being elected to the Board of Education or being hired as a superintendent or assistant superintendent shall remain in that position but will not be eligible for any other position in the school district as long as the relative is serving on the school board or employed as a superintendent or assistant superintendent. I might add that when I decided to become a candidate for the Board of Education, this clause was a consideration inasmuch as I have 2 relatives employed in the district. I am also aware of another individual who chose not to run for the Board of Education due to that clause. There may have been others that I'm not aware of. This clause has become an issue in that 2 board members' relatives currently employed by the district wish to move from one position to another, which wouldn't be a problem, except the clause clearly prohibits any movement. The board determined that this was not the intent of the clause, and the relatives of the board members are allowed to change position. The acting superintendent, however, was adamant that at the time the clause was added, the board was fully aware of the intent of the clause. Inasmuch as this clause is already impacted and may currently be impacting folks in the Fox C6 community, it's incumbent upon the board to inform them of their new interpretation of the clause. So my question is, what can other folks do in the event they would like to move? What is the procedure so they should follow in order to transition to another position in the district? And those possibly considering running for serving on the Board of Education and have relatives employed by the district, what can they do so they're comfortable that their relatives will not be constrained by that particular clause? I think that's all.
Yeah, I'll answer some of it.
Would you answer?
Yeah,
Thank you.
and you can,
It's just an attempt to clarify, because I think everybody needs to know this.
interesting choice to clarify, an interesting place that you chose to read your article there, but I'll clarify
What'd you
some
say?
of it.
What'd you say, John?
I said you picked an interesting moment for all of that, but that's all right, I'll try my
I've
best.
mentioned this in board meetings. I've mentioned this in closed session many times. Come on.
If
But
you
go
want my
ahead.
clarification, you can pick up the phone and call me anytime you want. However, let me give it a shot here.
Okay, go ahead.
I was involved in writing that policy, and I do think the policy is written correctly. The word position on that particular policy was specifically intended so that a board member could not get a promotion or a raise for their family members. position was specifically supposed to be contractual position, is the way it was supposed to read. And since then, I've asked just recently for clarification to be written onto that. It's gone to attorney, it's gone to MSBA, and the policy clarification will be presented for everybody's review here in about a week or two, something like that, maybe 2 weeks, the next environment. But the policy reads exactly as it was supposed to, and I don't really think there's that much confusion. Secondly,
I knew how I interpreted it, but that's fine. And other folks.
I don't think the rest of us are very confused about it. As far as the position goes, an HR person was demoted and lost their job over that particular issue. So you're right, it wasn't really about the person hired. It wasn't about the person being unhired. It was about the way that it was handled. It was done secretively. It was slid under the noses of the board, and the board couldn't stand for it, and the public couldn't stand for it. So I do feel sorry for that particular young person. They didn't do a single thing wrong in any way, shape, or form. However, many things had been done wrong to this board over previous hiring practices, and we could no longer tolerate that particular position, and we took the stance of doing the right thing at the right time. I do truly feel sorry for that individual. She didn't deserve it.
No, she didn't.
However, it should have been handled much better up front.
Not her problem.
Well, when things are done in a secret manner, sometimes there's repercussions. I think that answers the two questions you had, doesn't it? Okay. Steve?
Nothing to report.
Yeah, I didn't have much to report. All I really wanted to say was it was pretty boring meeting, and I think that it was boring due to the incredible amount of work that Dr. Whipke and Mr. Brazil have done. The building blocks that you've put into place that allow me to come to this meeting with some confidence and actually appreciate those pieces it's quite commendable. I'm really proud of the direction that the school district has taken. I'm absolutely proud of the policies that are being put in place. I'm absolutely proud of the new talent that's being hired and put into place. I'm incredibly impressed by the amount of talent that shows up and applies for jobs, making it incredibly difficult to hire the right person, which over my tenure on this board, oftentimes 1 or 2 people at most would even apply for the position for a whole bunch of particular reasons. That said, there's a lot of building blocks to continue. It's moving forward. It's a really nice job, and I'm proud to be here.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? Is that roll call?
Did I make a statement?
Did I skip you?
Well, I said no comment. I'm waving at you.
Absolutely, Mr. Sullivan. My
Just to add to
apologies.
what President Laughlin had to say in reference to transfers, the key becomes if you do not have an increase in income, and all the transfers that I think that were being referred to, there was no increases in pay. And therefore, there was no promotion, there was no increase in pay, and there was no problem at all.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it's well
And that is
within.
true, but the policy is a stupid policy, but it clearly states no movement in position. And that's what I'm saying, we need to clarify that, but clean it up, do something with it, it's a bad policy.
It's at the Missouri School Boards right now being cleared.
Good.
It
Sooner
is-
the better.
It is being clarified very, very quickly, and at no time, and I was very key in writing that policy, at no time was there an intent to tell a principal that she couldn't move a teacher from 3rd grade to 2nd grade. There was no intent to tell the superintendent that he couldn't move a teacher from this grade school to that grade school in order to meet expectations. And there was no intent at any time to tie the hands of our administrators for making the moves that they needed to make to take care of our children. The only intent was that you couldn't get a raise or a promotion due to the influence of your parent being on the school board.
And that certainly makes
It's written
sense.
exactly like that, and we're going to add a clarification piece so that there's no confusion whatsoever.
Okay, over the weekend, a lady who used to work in the school district, who does have children working in the district asked me about running for school board, and I said, I don't know, until that's cleared up. I don't even know
Mr.
what to
President, I
tell
made a
her.
motion. Can we get a second?
I call the motion.
Sorry.
Roll call for adjournment, please.
Sherry. Poppin.
It's fine.
Either yes or no. Roll call for adjournment, Ms. Poppin, yes or no?
Did we vote?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
We had a motion and a second.
And we're having roll call, and you're first.
I didn't hear my name called, but yes.
Sherry. Chris Hastings.
Yes.
John.
Yes, yes.
Dan Krupa. Yes. Steve Holloway.
Yes.
Don Mullen.
Yes.
Vern Sullivan.
This meeting's adjourned.